So we are building up to learning how to factor trinomials using something called the box method. But before we can do that, we need to master the concept of product sum. That's where you find whole numbers that will multiply to equal one number and add up to equal another number. So in this case, we want the product to be 7. And we want the sum to be 8. Well, 7 is a prime number, so there's only one product that will give me 7, and that is 7 times 1 is positive 7. And luckily, the sum right away of 7 plus 1 is equal to 8. So there, the product is 7 and the sum is 8. All of the problems will not necessarily be that easy. Next, we want a product of 12. So with that in mind, we know that 12, of course, is 1 times 12, but it's also 2 times 6 and 3 times 4. All of these will give me positive 12. So we want the sum to be positive 8, though. So which of these pairs can give me a positive 8? Well, that would be 2 plus 6. Okay, so 2 times 6 gives me a product of 12. 2 plus 6 gives me a sum of 8. So product and sum. All right, take a look at problem number 3. This time we want the product to be negative 15. So first of all, 15... All right, let me just circle this up. 15 can either be 1 times 15, or it could be 3 times 5. All right, obviously if I make one of these numbers negative, then it'll be negative 15. So we'll come back to that later. Now, we want a sum of positive 2. So I want the sum to be positive 2. Which one of these, if I pick the signs right, will give me a sum of 2? Well, I can get it if I use a 3 and a 5. If I make the 5 positive and the 3 negative. So if I do negative 3 plus 5, that's going to be positive 2. So that means the product is going to be negative 3 times 5. Which would make the negative 15. So we have the product of negative 15 and the sum of positive 2. All right, how about number 4? This time we want the sum to be negative 18. All right, we want the product to be negative 40, but let's just start with 40. All right, 40 could be 1 times 40, or it could be 2 times 20. Let's see, 3 does not go into 40, but 4 does. So that could be 4 times 10. 5 goes into 40. That would be 5 times 8. Okay, so all of these things will give me 40. Now, which of these could give me negative 18 if I pick the signs right? Well, 2 and 20. Think about it. So I'll have 2 and 20. If I want negative 18, what do I have to do with the signs? Well, if I make the 20 negative and I leave the 2 positive, 2 plus negative 20 is negative 18. All right, so 2 times negative 20 will give me the negative 40. So I have the product of negative 40, and I have a sum of negative 18. All right, this little process is going to be crucial to factoring on another video. So let's see, find two whole numbers that have a product of 9 and a sum of negative 6. Okay, so we want the sum to be negative 6. So product of 9, that's either going to be 1 times 9 or 3 times 3? Which one of these can lead to a negative 6 sum? Well, if we do the 3 times 3, if both of these are negative, that would make a sum of negative 6. So, as far as a product, that would mean negative 3 times negative 3, which does give me a product of positive 9. Now, on number 6, I want a product of negative 18 and a sum of negative 3. So we know we want the sum to be negative 3, but let's play around with the product. 18 is either 1 times 18 or 2 times 9 or 3 times 6. Okay? Now, which one of these pairs could give me negative 3 if I pick the signs right? Well, 3 and 6 can give me a negative 3 if I leave the 3 positive and I make the 6 negative. 3 plus negative 6 is negative 3. Now, if I turn that into a product, that would be 3 times negative 6. And 3 times negative 6 is negative 18. So I have a product of negative 18 and a sum of negative 3. Okay? So this skill, if you master it, will make factoring easy. So find two whole numbers that have a product of positive 10 and a sum of negative 11. Let's start with that sum of negative 11, and then let's play around with the product of 10. So 10 is either 1 times 10 or 2 times 5. And that's really it. So which one of these pairs can give me negative 11 if I pick the signs right? Well, that's going to be the 1 and the 10. If I make both of these negative, negative 1 plus negative 10 is negative 11. Now let's write that as a product. Negative 1 times negative 10. Well, guess what? That does give me positive 10. So I have a product of positive 10 and a sum of negative 11, so we've done it again. All right, one more time. Product sum. This time we want a product of positive 6 and a sum of negative 5. So let's start with the sum of negative 5. Now let's play around with the product of 6. So 6 is either going to be 1 times 6 or it will be 2 times 3. Those are the only whole numbers that will give me 6. Which one of these pairs can lead to a negative 5? Okay, well this is really a special case because both of these can lead to a negative 5 if I pick the signs right. So we need to think this through. For example, if I were to go with the 1 and the 6, this can give me negative 5 if I have a positive 1 and a negative 6. Well, let's turn that into a product and see if that's what we wanted. As a product, that would be 1 times negative 6. That would give me negative 6, not positive 6. So this is no good. All right, so that tells me not to use the 1 and the 6. Instead, let's use the 2 and the 3. All right, to get a negative 5 out of a 2 and a 3, I would need a negative 2 and a negative 3. Negative 2 plus negative 3 is negative 5. Now, if I turn that into a product, negative 2 times negative 3, well, that is positive 6. So we have a product of positive 6 and a sum of negative 5. That's just what we wanted. All right, so by itself, this is meaningless, but watch the next video, or rather, actually the next video is going to be kind of a review, but I mean look for the day 7 homework video. That will be box method day 2, where I show you how to use this skill to factor trinomials. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this video. Go ahead and click here in the red apple to watch the next video. Click in the green apple to subscribe, or click the yellow apple for the full playlist.